Gottlieb in for Colin. This is the herd. DeMarcus Bargnari. I'll get to you in 1 second on Twitter. Help me make my point. If you think a train will stop when it sees your car on the tracks, you're right. It will. About a mile after it hits you. So don't try and beat it because statistics show you might lose. Stop. Trains can't. He says, you're the perfect replacement for Colin. Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate that a lot. Both of you say literally the dumbest things, like Richard Sherman is smart for a football player. He went to Stanford and actually graduated. Like I can't stand these hot takes you say for just clout. I'll say it again. He is not a contract lawyer. He is not an agent. And the first contract you negotiate should not be possibly your last contract in the National Football League, especially coming off a torn Achilles tendon and doing so without any sort of leverage. So, yeah, he's very bright for a football player. I don't know if he's very bright for an agent or for a contract lawyer. I do know that you don't want to make that your first one, right? You just don't. And by every estimation, he got fleeced in that deal. He got below whatever market value would be because he never really went out on the market. He signed the first place he went. And that's a mistake. And he did it more probably because of vengeance. He's obviously still upset about it. Kirk Cousins is A.J. Bouye of the Jaguars going to join us upcoming in like 6-7 minutes. We'll get to Christine with the news in a moment. So I was thinking about the Kirk Cousins press conference yesterday when he's announced as a Minnesota Viking. And look, so much of how we're viewed is based upon our expectations, right? So much of how we're viewed is based upon our expectations. And because of those expectations, we're judged if we're a success or a failure. When Kirk Cousins was in D.C., remember, he was taken in the same draft as RG3. RG3, they moved up. They traded a bunch of picks away, moved up, took him. And as high as the expectations were for a Heisman Trophy winner, RG3 welcomed them. And he led them to the playoffs. And they seemed to be a completely different franchise. When Kirk Cousins took over, he was a fourth-round pick in the exact same draft. He was out of Michigan State, kind of a nondescript guy. And he was somebody that you could even find a little bit of sympathy for. Never really had a running game, wasn't surrounded by great wide receivers. His own head coach seemed to have trouble buying in to Kirk Cousins being the long-term solution. Bruce Allen, the president of the team, couldn't, as we pointed out to you in the offseason, couldn't even make it incumbent upon himself to learn that his name was Kirk, not Kurt Cousins. Like, in many ways, he was slighted. In many ways, he felt like the backup quarterback who just so happened to be the starter in an awesome offense for an awesome coach and put up awesome stats. He never felt the love. So he goes to Minnesota where he feels the love financially and emotionally. They wrap their arms around him. We had 3 quarterbacks and we got rid of you. We got rid of them because we want you. We were 1 game away from reaching the Super Bowl and we want you. What they wouldn't do for you, give you a long-term contract, we're willing to do for you. And he returned the favor. The story today is that he got $28 million a year from the Vikings. He turned down the highest bidder, which was the New York Jets, at $30 million a year. Take a listen, by the way, to what our friend Colin Cowherd had to say, the host of this show, in regards to what he thinks Kirk Cousins does for the Minnesota Vikings.
He is a B to a B plus on his best nights. He's not an A. He's not quite as talented as Matt Ryan. I don't think he's quite as talented as Alex Smith, but he's good, and I think he can get to a Super Bowl with Minnesota. I do. He's better than Case Keenum. He's not as good as Phillip Rivers, but I've watched Super Bowls for 40 years. If you have Minnesota's rosters, with those receivers, that defense, that coaching, you can get to a Super Bowl.
Okay.
And that's what you're in this game for. And you get to a Super Bowl. Minnesota now can't.
Okay. So, look. All of that I generally agree with. But you have to remember what Colin just said is the thought in Minnesota. Hey, dude, we were this close before. Now we pay you more money than anybody else makes in the sport to win us 1 more game. Forget about the fact that The Green Bay Packers didn't have their quarterback last year because he was hurt. The Chicago Bears started a rookie quarterback. They had the Glennon disaster, and they're in rebuild mode. All of this helps the fact that you're playing 6 games in division, against depleted teams. Forget about the fact you're planning to play your first-place schedule. Hey, they also had a miracle. Otherwise, they would have lost to the Saints. Traditionally, a terrible road team would have lost to the Saints at home in the playoffs. He's not wrong that, in theory, Kirk Cousins should make the Vikings a Super Bowl team. But that raises the level of expectations. We're always told, under-promise and over-deliver. The Vikings, by giving him this contract, are over-promising. And what always happens when you over-promise? The under-delivery is not well received. And if he wanted the love from Minnesota, he will. He'll get the love until he takes the field. And then there are expectations of 4,900 yards passing and winning one more game in the playoffs. And those aren't realistic, even if you listen to Colin, and I agree with him. He's a B+, maybe a B quarterback. So he is. He's fine. He just said he's below Alex Smith, who no one actually believes you can win a Super Bowl with Alex Smith. Why? Niners didn't. Chiefs didn't. Both came close. Both went with different options in order to take the next step. Here's Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Well, we know that J.R. Smith hasn't been quite a bit of a happy camper this season. He's had the soup gate, remember?
Hate
throwing
soup
his soup. He
No
wasn't
soup for
happy
you.
that he lost his starting job to Dwayne Wade, and then now he's lost it to Kyle Korver and it'll be Rodney Hood once he gets healthy. And Tyron Lue is saying that he had a conversation with J.R. Smith about it and that it was good. He said it was good. They talked about the lineup change. But now J.R. Smith is saying, no, we didn't talk. He sent me a text, and I told him no problem. I didn't know that it was a talk, but that's all right. I'm not upset about it. I just wish there would have been more dialogue, I guess. There's trouble in Cavs land. LeBron might be all happy and chipper right now, but there's something going on.
No, they're not healthy. They're not winning, and they're not getting along. Outside of that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the show?
Do you think that has any chance of changing in time for the playoffs?
I think it does, but I look, my general thought is that both Eastern and Western Conference, the Warriors, it's going to be more difficult for them. They're still the overwhelming favorite, assuming they're back healthy, and that's a big assumption. Assuming they're back healthy, they're still the favorite. But I don't think they're going to run through it in 12 games the way they did last year. And I don't think that the Cavs are going to run through it in 13 games. But the Cavs obviously seem a lot more fragile than the Warriors do.
Yeah.
And both are injured. But even whole, I think the Warriors are far more solid, even though the West is tougher.
Absolutely. But do you think the Cavs are getting out of the East?
I'm not convinced.
I'm not either.
Well, look, they still have the best player in the East, but that doesn't make the best team in the East.
No.
And this is how it always seems to end with LeBron. So this is weird. Kyrie leaving, and they tried to fix it, and once remember they fixed it like, oh, we're all so much
We've
better.
got Isaiah Thomas. They traded him.
And then this time, I sat on this couch with Colin. Like, look, Rodney. I believe he started putting the Rodney Hood ballots for the Hall of Fame after 2 games. Now we know who they are.
I'm glad
In fairness, they're not healthy. Rodney Hood's been hurt. They've had other injuries. They don't have Kevin Love back.
When you have soup being thrown in the locker room, that's a bad sign.
Who throws soup?
It is a weird thing to throw.
What's your favorite kind of soup?
Oof. Matzo ball soup?
The good choice.
Yeah, I really like matzo ball soup. What's yours?
Honestly, this is going to be gross to some people. I like cream of mushroom soup.
That's disgusting.
Yes.
Sorry.
I like a good lobster bisque as well.
Okay, so you like the creamy.
I do. It's
soups.
terrible for you. I like
Yeah.
a good matzo ball chicken noodle soup as well.
Well, that's 2 different things.
Yes.
Matzo ball is different than chicken noodle.
Well, it's kind of the same soup, just with a matzo ball in it. Hate to be that guy.
No.
Okay, go ahead. What
not.
else you got?
Do you get the same when you order chicken noodle soup at Greenblatt's or Cantor's? That doesn't come with a matzo ball in it, does it?
Technically, no, but it's the same soup.
There you go.
I believe it's the same liquid.
Just saying. Kirk Cousins signed a 3-year, $84 million contract with the Vikings. And he's saying that it was not the team that offered him the most money. However, his agent says it was important for Cousins to surpass Jimmy Garoppolo's contract, which he did, but did not take the biggest offer on the table. They're not saying what team that was that offered him more money. But Cousins said that he chose the Vikings because it came down to his desire to win.
Sounds like the Jets.
That's the word on the street.
Yeah.
Is that it's the Jets.
Sounds like it's the Jets.
Sounds like it's the right choice to me, right?
I would tend to agree.
Once you're in the $28 million range.
You're like, it's monopoly money, right? He's made
yeah.
$50 million the last 2 years.
Yeah.
As a guy who's a fourth-round pick, like 28 to actually win. Plus, you play indoors.
Yeah.
Helps your longevity, helps the zip on the football. He doesn't have a great arm.
Yeah, probably more endorsements.
I don't know about endorsements. But you got
He's not
Stephon
getting a ton
Diggs.
of endorsements.
You're gonna have a talented running back.
Cheaper to live there.
Also,
that actually might make up for $1 million or $2 million.
True, cheaper for a reason.
Yes. Oh.
It is. It's freezing cold. Did you go to the Super Bowl this year?
No, but I do have to go to Minneapolis in a couple weeks.
It's great now. Now, once you get to the spring, it's awesome.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be freezing.
No, it'll be all right.
You think so?
Yeah.
Overnight? Because that's when I'm shooting. Overnight.
It'll be chilly.
All right.
It's not going to be Southern California.
I'm going to bring my winter jacket.
I've seen worse than that show.
And some soup.
Yes.
Some matzo ball soup. And finally, there's apparently an NFL team that hired a private investigator to follow Baker Mayfield. Mayfield received an alert from a trusted source that he had a tail on him in Norman because they wanted to find out how he spends his nights near his old stomping grounds. Maybe I'm naive. I didn't know that this was a thing. Is this a thing?
Yeah. It's called doing your due diligence.
They hire private investigators?
Yeah. Doing your due diligence.
I guess that's a great. I guess it should.
Like, listen. Justin Blackmon was a great wide receiver, Blitnikoff Award winner at Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had a problem, and apparently the Jaguars didn't know he had a problem either. I mean, he barely did anything ever for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Probably wouldn't have happened had they put a tail on him and figured out what he was doing leading up to the draft. The questions about Baker Mayfield are off the football field. I was told on the whiteboard he was a magician. Okay, and he's a football savant. He's undersized. He does have a good arm. Doesn't have huge hands. He's not a great athlete. You want to see, you got to see the intangibles as well as the tangibles. Got to see the whole picture.
Do the guys
The
who are
tail
probably,
is interesting. That's like a 70s movie. That's like Starsky and Hutch.
That's what if you have a private investigator, you have a tail. They're following you. They've got to see what you're doing.
Yeah.
But do the guys at the top who are probably going to go at the top of the draft, do they all just know that they're probably being followed for a while?
I don't know.
In which case, you'd be on your best behavior.
Yeah, or just if you're a guy that doesn't do anything wrong, you don't have to worry about it. Who cares? You're going to follow me?
I
Good.
don't do anything
I'm going to
wrong,
Walmart.
and
I'm going to
I'd be
Walmart.
afraid.
Then I'm going to the gym. Then I'm going home to take a nap. Then I'm going to my girl's house. And that's Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
When shopping for car insurance, consider this. Geico's been saving people money on car insurance for over 75 years. So if you're serious about saving, it's simple. Go to geico.com. After 75 years, they know how to save you money. Coming up next, AJ Bouye is going to join us. He goes from undrafted free agent to a second-team All-Pro. I want to talk to him about that journey, plus what it's like to come this close to beating the Patriots and winning it and playing for a Super Bowl. That's up next. I'm Doug Gottlieb. This is The Herd.
A Miami Cuban with slow roasted pork loin.